In this video I'll show you how to choose the best speed setting for your massager. And the main thing to understand is that when you're using a vibrating massager, it's the vibrations that have the therapeutic effects, and there are two things that determine the benefits you'll receive. That's the frequency of the vibration and the amount of vibrations. Now, the frequency determines what the vibrations will do, and they're measured in hertz, which is cycles per second, but a lot of machines give their specs as RPM, which is per minute. Now, as an example of the therapeutic benefits, 50 Hz will give you a big increase in blood flow which will last a fair while 30 Hz will give you a smaller increase which only lasts a short time. So 50 Hz is much better. Now if we look at going faster, 50 Hz will relax your muscles, but 100 Hz will cause them to tighten. Now, in general, you'll get the best benefits using about 50 Hz, while anything from 40 to 60 will be pretty good. Now that's about 2400 to 3600 RPM, with the ideal being about 3000. Now the other thing that determines the benefits is of course the amount of vibration, and within reason it's the more vibrations the better. Now let's apply this to some example machines. Now this is our general purpose massager. Now it's a professional grade machine that gives a good amount of vibrations from about 20 Hz through to 60 Hz. So its best speed of 50 Hz is about 80 to 90% of full power. Now the next machine is a typical consumer vibration massager, only I've glued on a decent head rather than one of those cheap plastic gimmicky things that most of them come with. Now its speed's about the same, but when you apply it, it doesn't feel like it's doing much, and it feels like you want to push on it to help a bit. Now that's because the head of our professional machine goes up and down about 5 mils, where this one looks like it does bit less than half that, which means that it just buzzes the surface and doesn't send in anywhere near the amount of vibrations. Now the next ones we'll look at are professional machines designed to do larger areas. Now as shown in these pics, they tend to have larger plates that either go up and down or rock side to side, which means that as they get a speed up, the whole machine can vibrate. Now because of this, some actually limit their speed to a bit lower than 3000 RPM. Now this is our version though. Now instead of having a single plate or rocker, it has a complex mechanism that always has two heads going down while the other two heads go up, so the vibrations in the machine largely cancel. Now we had our first quads running at 3400, but for the next production we're throttling it down to right on the ideal of 3000 RPM, mainly just to reduce the stress on the complex mechanism inside. Now the last ones we'll look at are percussion massages or massage guns. Now, as discussed in a separate video which I'll link, these are designed to drive the heads into your muscle rather than deliver therapeutic vibrations. Now their advocates claim that this adds the benefits of conventional massage, but the reality is, to our knowledge, there's no scientific benefits and they're much more likely to hurt you. Now that said, a colleague bought a TheraGun which can drive its head in 16mm. Now you can do some tremendous damage driving something 16mm into your muscle 50 times a second, so she can only use it at slow speed. Now I don't know what that is, but let's say it's 10 Hz. Now that's nowhere near the 30 plus Hz you need to get good effects. Now the ironic thing is that you'll probably get much better therapeutic vibrations using a piddly machine like this that you can use at 50 Hz than you would out of a megabucks percussion massager that's going to hurt you if you run it anywhere near the proper therapeutic speeds. Now understanding that, now let's look at how you should use each of the machines. Now starting with your consumer massages or cheap massage guns. Now first, to get decent vibration transfer, you'll need to use a flatter head rather than one that would look at home on a jackhammer. Now I'll link a separate video on this. Now most of these machines have a maximum speed of around 3000 RPM, and I can barely feel this thing, so I can't see many people not being able to tolerate their maximum output, so most of the time you'd use one flat out. Now let's look at a professional standard machine. Now what you do is run them as close to as possible as 3000 RPM. But unlike your consumer massages and massage guns, these are going to have quite a kick at that speed, so you might have to slow them down a bit. Now there's one trick you can use though. Now our general purpose massagers come with a head with multiple projections. Now, most people think that they're for pressing in or for high penetration, but the reality is that they lessen the contact area that transmits the vibrations, Now they actually reduce the vibrations going into your body. Now what that means is you'll be able to tolerate a much higher speed. Now say for example you can only tolerate 2000 RPM with the flathead, you may be able to tolerate 3000 with the projections head. Now you'll get less vibrations, but they'll be the ones that have the far greater therapeutic benefits. Now lastly, we'll look at what you do if you bought one of those high-powered massage guns. Now the best solution is to sell a thing and get something appropriate, but your other alternative is to do what scientists have done when asked to do trials on them. Now that's fit special damper heads. Now these reduce the amount of the head goes up and down and spread the contact out. Now if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate, and hopefully this has been useful, and thank you very much for watching. It has been most appreciated.